I worked nights at an office depot in the early 2000s. There were 2, at most 3 of us locked in the store overnight. The manager would let us out at 6 a.m. No one could come in or out without setting off the alarm. It started with footsteps down the hallway. My coworker and I would be in the back office printing signs, and all of a sudden you'd hear someone walking down the hallway towards us. One of us would peek out and there was no one there. One night we're working and around 3 a.m. the store phone keeps ringing. My coworker finally picks it up, listens for a few seconds, then says, "Sorry, you have the wrong number," and hangs up. Rings again. Same girl. He hangs up. Calls again. This time he puts her on speaker. She's crying, sobbing, "Why won't you talk to me? What's wrong with you?" Coworker, "Ma'am, you have the wrong number. Stop calling." He hangs up. He looks at me and says, "This is fucking weird, man." I tell him it's just some crazy chick calling. No biggie. Phone rings again. He puts it on speaker. "I'm not crazy." Click, she hangs up and never calls again. Scared the ever-loving shit out of us. One night I'm stocking the supply side of the store, envelopes and stuff like that. My coworker comes running over from tech and heads to the next aisle over. He says there is someone in the store. I think he's messing with me, but he's clearly disturbed by it. We search the store and no one is there. I asked what he saw and he says there was a man walking parallel to me on the next aisle. He was up on the ladder stocking printers and saw him. He was extremely spooked by this. One night 3 of us are working together on one aisle, goofing off really, and we hear man's voice on the other side of the store yell out, "What the hell?" at the top of his lungs. It scared all of us so badly we called the morning manager. He was not happy and told us to quit fucking around. When I took off 2 weeks for my honeymoon, the guy they got to cover for me lasted 1 week before he quit. I ran into him a few weeks after I got back and asked him what happened. He said he couldn't do it. He kept seeing people standing there out of the corner of his eye, but when he looked there was no one there. The night crew stopped when I left. My coworker quit and they hired a woman to replace him. Her second night she came up to me and said the back of her neck was on fire. I looked and she had these fresh, deep red scratches running from her neck to the middle of her back. It scared the hell out of her. That was the last straw for me. I quit a few days later.
I was working at Toy R Us in the late 90s. It was late fall and we were running small night crews, 4 to 5 guys, in preparation for the Xmas rush. One night I'm the only one who shows up. Closing manager tells me I can split if I don't want to be alone in the building all night. You got locked in. I'm fine with it. Actually thought it would be kind of cool. They close up, set the alarm and leave. I'm now alone until 7 a.m. We would usually dial up the store intercom and broadcast a radio over it to stop the crappy music from playing, awful 80s light hits. I grab the radio and dial up the intercom and set it up. The next few hours were quiet and uneventful until suddenly I hear click and the music starts again. I go over to the front desk where I had the radio and it's still there playing. The phone is still off the receiver, right next to where I left it. Okay. I redial the intercom and head back to the aisle I was working in. Not even 20 minutes later click and again the music starts. I go back to the desk. Nothing has moved or anything, radio still playing. Receiver still off the hook. Let me be clear, this has never happened before. We have been doing the trick with the intercom for weeks at this point and never did it ever just hang up on its own like that. Ever. I'm starting to get a little freaked out now. It's like 3 a.m. at this point and I still got a few hours to go. But I'm telling myself, it must just be the phone. Let me move to a different location. So I head over to a random register and set it up. It's fine for like 2 hours or so before click. Okay, now I'm officially freaked out. It's like someone is hanging up the receiver with their finger. I head over to the sporting good aisle and grab a wooden t-ball bat and start walking the whole store. Is someone in here fucking with me? I walk the whole store and warehouse. Nothing, not a soul. I try to get back to work and just leave the music on, but I could not focus. The hair on the back of my neck would not go down, and I just fucked off to the manager's office at the front of the store and locked myself in until the morning crew showed up at 7. For the rest of the season we continued the trick with the radio and it did not repeat what happened that night. Not once, not ever. It only happened that one night I was alone in the store. Can't explain it.
Only tangentially related, but your story reminded me of a thing. I used to work in a thrift store. Most often, my job was to tend to the donation door, so when people came to drop stuff off, I would help them bring their things inside. Then I'd sort it into our various bins and do a preliminary quality control. We closed at 9 o'clock, but after about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, there was very little to do. Even so, someone would have to be around for the very occasional donations that did come in. After about 7 o'clock, the person working the closing shift in the donation center would be on their own back there. When it was my night to close, it was always pretty boring, and I would just look for busy work to kill time. Sweeping the floor, organizing the ever-present mess of donations, whatever. For some reason, it was only during the later parts of the evening that anything paranormal would happen. The door where people dropped off their donations was an automatic sliding door like you often see at the entrance to stores. And in the evening, the sensor that opened the door would often trip when there was nobody there to set it off. Similarly, there was a phone right by the door, and it would sometimes ring, but when I answered it, there wouldn't be anyone on the other end. It wasn't uncommon, as I was helping people unload their donations, for them to tell me they were donating the belongings of a recently deceased relative, so I'm completely convinced that there were ghosts all up in that place.
A car accident? That didn't happen. I was about to make a turn. I looked both ways and saw zero, absolutely zero, incoming traffic. I turn right and bam. I am hit and my front bumper comes off. There is zero reason for this accident to happen, as the road had absolutely no cars on it, and I could see down for a good quarter of a mile both ways. I am dumbfounded. He asked how I didn't see him, and I was in too much of a shock to answer. This accident could not have happened, as there were no cars on the road. My eyesight is good, so I don't understand how I could miss an obvious car coming down the road. Speed limit was 35, so even a speeding car I would notice. His car only had a minor scrape, while my front bumper was torn off. Also, my headlight was busted. He decided to just paint over it, but we exchanged our insurance info and went on our separate ways. I put my bumper into the back seat and went to work. I didn't get any phone call or anything regarding the accident. When I left work that afternoon, I noticed my bumper was now on and attached. No signs of damage, no busted headlights, nothing. The notebook where I had written the guy's information no longer had it, and my phone where I took pictures, the pictures were gone. To this very day, I cannot explain it. Did I hallucinate an entire car accident? Imagined it? Or did the universe decide it really was impossible for the accident to happen, and thus reversed it somehow? I don't know. I cannot make any sense of it.
One time I was running a high fever, talking 40 degrees Celsius, so I was in that state where you are freezing but at the same time boiling. It was hell. So I fell asleep and found myself in a cobblestone street with lots of fog. And I am amazed because the temperature is not cold but also not warm either, so it is a little unsettling. So I decide to go down the street, and I start hearing voices. Hello, I am here. Can you see me? Help me. They are all yelling, and I see people just standing there in the fog looking at random places, so I come close and ask someone something, but they do not notice me, almost as if I was invisible to them, and they look desperate. This, of course, freaked me out, so I ran, and I ended up in some sort of DMV-style building with a creature smoking a cigarette outside. It looked like one of those Mexican hairless dogs, but with spots that resembled a skeleton in his skin. I do not know why, but they seemed friendly to me. So, since I am freaking out, naturally, I went inside the building only to find a bussy waiting room with more of those creatures doing what public sector workers do best at the DMV, slacking off and chatting to each other. I take a number, 33. All right, I suppose there's not a lot of people in front of me, and the number in the screen was 5, so I sat down for literally 40 minutes waiting for my turn, and I get called by an elderly creature behind the front desk. It even had glasses, and his bone markings were a little yellowish, like old bones. Name. I gave it my name. The creature types on the computer. Yeah, I don't have you on my system. May I have your death comprobant? My what? It's that sheet of paper that says that you are officially dead. You should have one. No, I do not have anything. I just appeared here. The creature looks like it is a long day, and he has had it with this crap, so it says. You don't have one. No. And you don't appear in the system either. Huh. Well, leave. What? Leave. And I woke up. No fever. No sickness. Nothing. I was cured. A friend of mine says those were Wendigos. I say they are Xoloitzcuintles in their true form. Anyway, moral of the story, do not lose your papers if you die, otherwise I am pretty sure I walked through purgatory. Also, try to die with a book on your pocket.
TLDR, weird voice saved autistic sister from drowning. One time when I was a teenager, I was totally alone in my kitchen, and I had this extremely intrusive reoccurring thought slamming into my mind, telling me that I needed to check on my older sister. My older sister is pretty severely autistic, has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. Anyways, I was ignoring this thought telling me to check on her and continued my business, but something just kept telling me to check on her. After maybe a minute passed I heard this, I guess I was a voice clear as day, like somebody was there in the kitchen with me, check on your fucking sister. Fucking listen to me. Listen. Listen. Listen to me. Needless to say, it struck me hard enough to get me to stop whatever shit I was doing, and I went towards my sister's room calling for her. It's like I was guided to the bathroom with this weird watery splashing sound, so I diverted my direction from my sister's room towards the downstairs bathroom. My sister was having a seizure face down in the bathtub drowning. She wasn't even splashing or anything, so the water sounds are still weird to me. I was able to pull her out and she was saved. I didn't save my sister that day. That fucking voice saved her. I wasn't even usually home and my mom was drunk passed out in her bedroom. This was before I started drinking and using drugs myself and generally going crazy, so I wasn't hallucinating. Something saved my sister and I have no fucking clue what. I can only explain it as God. I'll always believe there's a God, but I can't and won't even try to explain the craziness of there actually being some sort of higher power. Sister's alive and happy today, and me and my mom are both sober now.
A few years ago, I had a couple of friends over my apartment. It was late at night and we were outside smoking cigarettes, having a couple drinks and just talking. One of us saw a plane in the sky and joked about it being a UFO. It was pretty bright and was moving kind of weird, but we didn't think much of it. Again, we only jokingly said it was a UFO. Then a second craft came into view and they were both just kind of flying around each other. Still figured it was a plane or a helicopter, but because of how they were moving we were all kind of looking at each other like, "No, I'm sure it's not." Then, also seemingly out of nowhere, what I can only describe as sparks began spewing out of the first craft we saw. It looked like it had been hit by something midair. That's when we all let out a synchronized, "What the fuck?" The craft began to fall while these sparks continued to spew from it. It was night out, so they were bright against the dark sky. It almost looked like when a transformer blows up and sparks fly from it. But in the sky. By this time we were bracing for an explosion as it hit the ground. The other craft seemed to be following the first one as it fell. Then it flew in the other direction and took off. We never heard a crash and we tried searching online for any news of an airplane crash, but we never saw anything. I'm not saying it was aliens, but
I had a dream, weird details aside, that my wife's friend was having an affair and going to leave her husband, and their basement had flooded, so we came over to help. I told my wife, we laughed. Then she was telling her friend about it, and her friend shockingly admitted she was having an affair, and 2 years earlier the basement of their townhouse flooded. After that they kept pestering me if I've had dreams like that before, which I have, just not to that level of secretive stuff. Fast forward several years, friend gets remarried, my wife and I have a child, and friend and new husband announce they're pregnant too. A couple months later I had a dream our child was waving goodbye to friend, and everything felt sad. The next day friend went to the hospital and found out her baby was missing several chromosomes for developing a normal heart and brain, and the rest is just sad news. I felt so awful for them because they're wonderful people and they were so excited to have a baby too.